Okay, so what do I do on the first day of school? That's a great question. Many of you won't have any classes yet put into the system. Maybe they'll start to show up, but the teachers will have to import specific topics and stuff. The one thing you can do is go look in your the Frameworks for Learning page on our website, and that'll help you understand what courses and what classes what requirements for your classes are going to be. But I have a great idea this year, and we did some of it last year, but we have this holiday coming up. And so I would think it'd be a great time to learn a little bit about Labor Day. And with this video, I'll include some links to some other things that you could learn about Labor Day. But I was just thinking, like, what you would need to do in our school is trying to learn deep about something. And that requires reading, writing, speaking, thinking, sometimes some calculations, sometimes a little bit more research. And that process, we kind of go like, what do I need to learn? What do I need to do? How do I need to grow? And so that's the steps you need to be thinking about. And then, of course, eventually you reach mastery. So for this Labor Day thing, I thought about all the ways Labor Day, even though it's a practical thing, it's a holiday we all like to celebrate, you could begin to learn about, like, why do we have Labor Day? And that's a historical event. How are labor practices affected the government and laws? And what about, like, child labor? Why did we change things there? What about unions? If I learned a little bit about unions and the value they bring to the society and why they're valuable or not valuable, depending on your opinion. What about the physiological effects of overworking people? Why do we take days off? How do national holidays come to be? That's bills and laws. All these kind of questions, they start rolling around in my head. And maybe you should think about some as well. Ask your parents, ask your friends. Do you know what Labor Day is about? You could compare Labor Day to Memorial Day or understanding Juneteenth. You could do all sorts of things like that. And basically, the learning goal here is to learn about holidays, or if I think it's a good day to have Labor Day, or if it's a good thing to have unions. Those are all options. The next thing that you would want to do is say, okay, I learn about it, and I wouldn't be so concerned right now about making sure that you meet a whole bunch of standards for your classes. Just do some learning and work with your teachers to find how they do meet the standards. And then you create something that shows it. So you could create a video like this. You could create a podcast. You could write a paper. You could create a slideshow. You could create an animated video about one of the holidays. You could create a diorama. I don't know if that's something you'd like to do. You could you could have a conversation with your teachers about it. So that's a bunch of ways to get moving forward, and you just turn it in. You could even, in this case, email your teachers, your mentor, and say, hey, would you help me figure out how to put this somewhere in my school? You could learn about civic responsibility, why voting matters. There's a whole bunch of ways you could move forward. And since you won't have specific courses set up, do that. Or if you have some sort of interest, say, for example, you're really interested in Elon Musk's the mothership headed to Mars in the future. You want to learn a little bit about that? Do that. If you want, go explore, figure out how you can do it. And most often you can turn something into some class. So learn what you want to learn. Find out about the things you want to find out about. Get deep. Move from the surface understanding, like the dates and names and numbers of the thing, and find out how the things relate. So, like, how does physics play into the way a spaceship leaves orbit, or gets into orbit and leaves the atmosphere? How does the way people are treated affect their long-term health? Those kind of things. You can start to find relationships between things, and how many hours they work and how they get a work-life balance. Does that affect their long-term profitability? All of those things, you dig deeper, start to understand, and then ultimately, our goal for you is to start to find out how you could transfer some of that material to your own life. Get your own voice and choice in there. Like, figure out, why does it matter if we go to Mars or not? Why does it matter that there are restrictions on work hours? Does it matter for me if I want to have a gig economy job where there aren't all these special rules to protect the worker? Those are all questions you can explore and figure out how it matters to you. And of course, when you're doing that, creating that piece where you're providing evidence that you learned something, think about how you can make it look phenomenal, how you could show your skills in creating that infographic about Labor Day. You could also spend some time just thinking about how is it authentic and how does my voice show up in this presentation. And like I said earlier, we want you to start thinking more complexly about topics, moving from the surface understanding to a deeper understanding where things connect, and then transfer, obviously, how it connects to you. So those are some ways you can get started. Sorry, this is a little bit longer video, but it's super important that you understand that you can start working right away